Ready?
Okay, we're just a few more students here. Hello and welcome. My name is Jan Potsman. I'm an assistant director here at the Career Center, and I am here today to introduce our speaker, one of our newest employees, Genesis Lozano. Genesis earned her Bachelor of Science in Agricultural and Environmental Education from UC Davis. During her undergraduate experience, she held many student jobs and was heavily involved with student affairs. She found her passion in higher education while working as a student employment peer advisor at UC Davis's Internship and Career Center. After her time at UC Davis, she decided to explore other careers in education. She worked as a partner teacher in an underserved middle school in Sacramento with a nonprofit called City Year. After her time with City Year, she moved to Florida to serve as a conservation education presenter on Disney's Animal Kingdom's Animal Science and Environment team. After her time with Walt Disney World, she earned her Master's of Arts in Higher Education Leadership from CSUN. Genesis was born and raised in the San Fernando Valley and has strong ties to the community. She joined CSUN as a staff member in 2020. Sorry.
Oh, good.
And has held different positions on campus since then. Currently, as a student employment advisor, she assists with the From Here to Career program, a career readiness program for CSUN student employees. She provides general outreach to and supports campus employers and participants. Genesis finds passion in helping students realize the value of an on-campus job and how this experience can help them develop their career goals. As a first-generation Latina student, she understands the importance of empowering students with the right resources to achieve their career goals. When Genesis is not at the Career Center, she enjoys hanging out with her pug and visiting national parks. We'd like to welcome Genesis today, Genesis Lozano, to present to you about creating a LinkedIn profile and connecting with recruiters.
Yes.
Genesis, it's all yours.
Yeah, thank you, Jen. That was such a great introduction. I appreciate you introducing me. Let me go ahead and share my screen really quickly. All right, you should be seeing my slides now. I'm going to go full screen. Awesome. So hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate you coming out and doing internship week, being part of the sessions. Today, we're going to be talking about creating a LinkedIn profile and connecting with recruiters. Before we get started, if you all do have any questions at any point in my presentation, just type them in the chat and we'll have someone read them out loud, which is totally okay. I want this to be very interactive and I want to go over what you feel you need help on the most. So with that being said, I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in. So our goals for today are 4. We're going to understand the importance of an online presence. We're going to learn how to navigate through LinkedIn. We're going to gain insight on the different features and strategies. And finally, we're going to talk about how we're going to connect with recruiters.
Genesis, before we get started,
Yes.
we have a poll that we'll launch.
Awesome. So feel free to answer that poll. Take a look at the question and take a moment to answer that question before we get started. As you all are doing that, the first question that I have posed is, why is having an online presence so important? This is really the fundamental question for this presentation. And it's really, recruiters just have evolved the job search process. So a lot of recruiters are now using online presence to learn more about their applicants. A lot of recruiters now admit also that they might even Google their applicants before moving forward with an application. That's just kind of the reality of it now. So using your online presence can be a very powerful tool to build and curate what some people call your personal brand. And using LinkedIn as a tool kind of makes it a lot easier for you as a student, as a job seeker to take advantage of your online presence and curate it to create this, professional, almost portfolio of your experiences, what you've done in school, any projects. So I think it's a very powerful tool. And it also helps you think about being very intentional about what you post online and how your online presence is going to affect you now as a student, as a future professional when you enter the workforce. So it's a very, I think, powerful tool. And like I said, the job process has changed from how we search for jobs as well, right? We used to maybe look at a posting, post a billboard with a bunch of jobs, right? But the way we look for jobs now is very much online. Your first thing is going to be maybe to go to Google, right? We're going to find sites like Indeed, Monster, Career Builder. All these sites are great. They have these, aggregated jobs all on their sites. And as a student, your first hunch is going to be, let me search by my major. Let me search by industry. Let me see what jobs are in my area, which is great. These sites do have jobs for you to, take a look into, apply to, take advantage of. But the problem with these sites sometimes is they only have a certain amount of jobs. They actually only contain about 20% of jobs on these sites because employers have to pay to post their job on these websites. So you're not accessing the full amount of jobs that are out there in the industry you want to enter. You're not accessing this full inventory of jobs that are available to you. So when we think about how we're going to access this hidden job market they referred to, right? These other 80% of jobs, moving forward, how we're going to access that, the number one answer to that is always going to be LinkedIn or networking, right? So these cool infographics here kind of really put what I'm saying into perspective. This is that 80% hidden job market. This is those jobs that are not going to be on, Indeed or Career Builder or Monster. These 20% of those jobs are going to be on that open job market, the one that's openly advertised. Now, this hidden job market here, how we're going to access them is through different avenues of networking. That could be a professor. Maybe you went to a professional event or you're part of a professional organization. Maybe through volunteer work, you're going to get new opportunities for work. Or if you set up an informational interview with someone, that can be another way to get a form of employment or part-time job or an internship. Social media is also now kind of skyrocketing and helping students stay connected with recruiters, stay connected with companies. Same thing with those online networking groups. Like LinkedIn is one of those tools to help you maintain your relationships and build new relationships. So we're going to really talk about how LinkedIn has made networking a little bit easier, and how you can now as a student build your network up to help you as a professional, to help you now maybe get an internship, to get new resources that you might not have been able to access before LinkedIn. So we're going to just jump right into it. What I'm going to do is actually share my profile on LinkedIn. We're going to go through every little piece of a profile. We're actually going to look at some other people's profiles as well. So let me switch my screen. All right. Can you see my screen, Jan?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So what we're looking at here is LinkedIn. This is my profile here. It's kind of my LinkedIn profile. We're going to go through today and go through the pieces. Before we kind of get started, I kind of want to gauge how many people have created a LinkedIn before. So if you can put in the chat, like, yes, created a LinkedIn before, you have a login or you've done that before, that'd be helpful for me, for my, learning purposes. Awesome. Good. No, there's some no's. Yeah. Created one, but don't use it. Yeah. So that is kind of what I get across. I hear that from a lot of students where they have a LinkedIn, they have a logged in, they've created it, but they don't use it. They don't know how to take advantage of it. So hopefully after today, you'll be able to feel more confident to be like, you know what, I'm going to go create my LinkedIn, make it strong, and start making those connections. So we're going to get started here. The first thing that I always like to talk about with students, the most apparent one, right, is your photo. Your photo can be it can be a very simple photo. You don't have to be, if you have a fancy headshot, you can totally put that headshot in there. But if you have a selfie with a clear background, maybe even in portrait mode, a lot of phones have portrait mode. So that's something you can use. Just maybe go outside with the right lighting. This literally how I took this photo was just a portrait mode of myself. And I was able to do like shoulders and above is typically what they recommend. Try to make it a recent photo of yourself. Sometimes you can also look at what photos people are in your industry are using. Maybe they're being a little more creative with their photo, but generally I want to be able to look at your photo and say, I can recognize who that is if I were to see you outside of LinkedIn, right, in person. The next thing you're going to notice here is my background here. Sometimes people call it their header. So this header here is, it's what I chose to put as my header. In celebration of Latinx Heritage Month, this is what I had. It just ended. For the time I had this, your header can be a variety of different things. It can be maybe the company you work with has a header, or it can be something related to an industry you want to enter. If you're going into the music industry, maybe you're going to have like a keyboard in the background or something related to music. So it could just be something related to your industry. It could be something going on at the moment that you want to celebrate. It's really kind of up to you. And my profile is just one example. I'm going to show you other professionals who are actively using LinkedIn as well, what they're using as their profile background as well. All right. Next thing we're going to go down and see is the name. So you're going to see here, you can now put your pronouns on LinkedIn, which I think is great. You have the option to link them there. I have them linked so people know how I identify. What I also think is a great feature is this little sound speaker here. Now, when I press the sound speaker, hopefully you can hear my name pronunciation. So it's a great way to get people to understand how to say your name, and hopefully they'll be able to connect with you easier. So I'm going to play it for you and tell me if you can hear it. Just pop yes in the chat if you can hear it.
Genesis Lozano.
Were y'all able to hear that? Yeah, okay, awesome, cool. So yeah, that is a feature you can actually add to your profile if you want to. Your profile is you can personalize it to how you want, so you can add it or not add it. To add this, you actually have to do it from LinkedIn's mobile app. That's the only thing. You have to download their app, which I think is great. And that's how I stay most connected, because I could just be like scrolling and connecting with my networks through their mobile app. All right, the next thing you're gonna see right under that is my headline here. So this headline here, it says my current position and where I work. So it can say that, and let's say if you're a student, your headline can be a little bit different. Let's say something you're aspiring to be. If you're a finance or an economics major, maybe you want to be a financial data analyst. So your headline would read aspiring financial data analyst. So it doesn't mean it has to be a position you're currently holding. That's not the case at all. It can be an aspirational headline, meaning something you want to achieve, some industry you want to end up in. It doesn't have to be a current position you're holding. Next thing, we're going to go down, we're going to see this analytics section. Now, this is only viewable to you. So if you log into your LinkedIn, you'll be able to see your own analytics. What you can see is who's viewed your profile. Now, that's important because LinkedIn often gets compared to Facebook, but it's very different, because if you view someone's profile on Facebook, they will not get a notification. Here on LinkedIn, if I were to go to view someone else's profile, they will get a notification. So that is something to keep in mind when you're viewing other people's profiles. You can see how many impressions you have on certain posts. Now, impressions are not just likes or like certain, reactions to it. It's actually who's interacted with the post, which I think is really cool. And you can see how many people you're reaching. And then you can see how many appearances you've searched in. This is also important because when you think about recruiters, when they're searching for certain applicants, they're going to type in these keywords. They're going to go into LinkedIn and look for certain keywords, and it's going to populate a list of people, and it's going to show, how many searches you've been in. And that's going to really relate to your about section. So if we go down to this about section, now your about section is typically I call it like a mini cover letter, right? It's usually in the third person. It could be in first person. It really depends on your preference again. But I've mostly seen it in the third person. Now, if your about section has language that's very intentional and has language that is used in your industry or the profession you want to enter, that's what's going to trigger searches. So it's this about section's important how you phrase it and how intentional you're being, including the language that goes along with your industry. So that's kind of important to think about when creating this section. There's usually 3 parts to your about section. It's what's your motivation? This is the first part. What is your past? Why are you interested in this industry? Why do you want to go into this profession? What are you doing about it right now? Are you going to school? Are you getting certifications? How are you moving forward to make this motivation real, and how you're going to enter this industry? And then what's the future, right? What do you want to do next? What do you aspire to do? Is there a certain company you want to work for, a certain position you want to hold. That's kind of the three parts to your about section, kind of framing it like, again, that mini cover letter. If you've never done a cover letter, we can definitely talk about that. If you come down to the Career Center, we can talk about it more. So that's our about section. Then we're going to scroll down and we're going to go to our featured section. So the featured section is, it could be anything. In my featured section, I have certain posts that I was featured in. This one is from a past position that I held for, it was celebrating my work anniversary, worked there for about 2 years. And this I featured because it shows, again, recruiters that I bring that credibility, that trust. They understand that, okay, what I'm saying on my resume that I worked at that company is true because I was featured on their page and I was active on their LinkedIn. So featuring this builds that credibility. Same thing with here with a post from the Career Center. You can see me and one of my coworkers at the career fair that we're hosting. So it brings that credibility. It shows recruiters that, one, not only are you active with your network and you're keeping your LinkedIn up, but that what you say on your resume is true and that you're building that trust with them and that credibility. All right. And your feature can feature a lot of things. It doesn't have to be post. You can also put in like a project you worked on. If you created a video for a class and you want to showcase that, you can go ahead and do that and put the description along. It could be a lot of different things. Next thing here is our activity. So your activity shows like what you commented on, shows that I commented on this post a little while ago, any things you might would have reshared or liked. This is just to show if someone's looking at a profile like a recruiter, it shows, oh, they are actively using their LinkedIn. It's not something they just have there and they're not really keeping up with it. Next, we're going to go down is the experience. Experience is my favorite part that you can feature on your LinkedIn. The first thing you're going to notice is very visual. So you can see you can have different photos of you doing things. You can have descriptions and you can list skills that you might have used in that time period or that position. So I say the best thing you can do is, add those photos. Let's say you worked on a presentation, like for this professional work experience I have here. I worked on a presentation that I gave. I linked that there. So if a recruiter wants to go through it and see, they'll see, hey, she's saying that she gave presentations. She has proof. She, went through it and did it. It's building that credibility and really showing recruiters that you have this experience, that you've done this. So, adding photos is great if you have them. Something to think about, not just photos. You can also add like presentations or different files, which brings me down to education. So the education section is also great. You can list any education that you've done. You can list education that you're currently doing. So like most of you are students currently finishing up your bachelor's degree. You might want to list your education here as you're still doing it, your grade that you're in. You can list any activities and societies that you're part of, which again is great because it shows that you're involved. It shows that you are really keeping up with your LinkedIn. You can also link to projects. So you can see here, actually, can you see this when I click this? Like the second screen that popped up, Jan? Or anyone who's...
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I just want to make sure. So you can see I linked a past presentation that I completed for a class on a research project that I completed. If your seniors, if you're finishing up your degree, you have those senior thesis projects that you're working on, or you have something you want to showcase under your education, you can do that. Same here. I've linked my final research paper that I finished for my master's program for the research project that I completed. If you have those accomplishments, put them on there, show them on LinkedIn if you feel comfortable, to build that credibility, to show like, hey, yeah, I can write, I can present. It's building that trust with a recruiter who's looking at your profile. Then we'll go down and you'll see this volunteering section. Now, like I said, your LinkedIn is very customizable. You can have certain sections or remove other sections. I have a volunteering section. During undergrad, I did a lot of volunteer work. That is how I built my professional experience. By doing this volunteer work, I was able to get paid work. So I have that featured on here. You don't necessarily have to do it. This is different because it doesn't let you add photos. So that's just something to think about. So I learned the other day. Next up is we have our skill section. So this skill section, my skill section is not as strong as I would like it to be, but you can list different skills as you're putting in different job descriptions up here. You'll see I listed different skills here for the jobs that I've worked, and then those will relate down to here in the skill section. Now, what's cool about the skill section, you can actually have different connections endorse your skills. So as you see, I'll have like one endorsement here, one endorsement for my skills with Excel. And you don't necessarily have to ask one of your connections like, hey, can you endorse this skill for me? what happens is when you connect with someone new, they're sent like a little message when they view your profile that says, hey, can you endorse any of Genesis skills? And they'll list the skills that you have put on your LinkedIn. And they'll say, yeah, sure. Or they'll just choose not to. So I think that's cool. You don't necessarily have to go out and be like, endorse my skills. It'll just prompt people when you connect with them. And it can be anyone from maybe a classmate that you worked on a project with to, a past supervisor or past coworker that you worked on something with. So that's the skill section. Let me show you another example. So my skill section, not as strong as I want it to be, but if I show you, this is another person's profile. This is a recruiter at Meta, and her skill section is there you go. She's got 39 endorsements, 3 endorsements. So her skills are quite stronger. And it's again, because LinkedIn is able to just ask people like, hey, do you want to endorse this skill? And we don't necessarily have too much of it. Next thing up is recommendations. So this recommendation section is different than skills because your recommendations, you actually will have to ask for a recommendation. What you'll do is if you want to add that recommendation section, you'll hit the ask for a recommendation and you'll hit, let's say you want to, someone currently in your network. Let's say I want to do my coworker, Daniel. Then I'll hit what's the relationship. So you'll choose what relationship you had to them, the position you held at the time. So it does have to be a position you advertise in your experience. And then you're going to write that personalized message. Now this personalized message, if you are going to ask for a recommendation, do give them parameters. I think if you're, you're comfortable enough with this person to ask for a recommendation, you can even say, hey, can you speak about my organization skills? Or can you talk about my public speaking skills? And that's totally okay. It actually makes writing the recommendation a lot easier for the person you're reaching out to. So, and again, it's great to have that recommendations. As a recruiter, if I'm looking at this profile, I'm thinking, well, that's great. It has someone that's actually is recommending her and saying that she can do what she claims on her resume. And then we have these next sections here. Now, these are completely optional. I have them in my profile. I am bilingual, so I thought it was nice to showcase that I can speak another language. I have this organization that I'm part of because I still do a lot of networking through this organization. So it's nice, again, to have those keywords on my profile. And then the interest section. So the interest section, you can follow groups. You can now follow certain people as well. Different organizations to stay updated. This interest section really kind of shows that you're staying connected with your industry. You want to boost your network. You want to know what's going on. Now, again, you can see whoever you follow, other people can see. So just be very intentional about what companies you're following, what you're interested in, and just keeping it professional. So let's go all the way back up. I went through all these different sections, and I had previously said that you can really choose the sections you want to add or take off of your profile. So I'll show you how to do that. So you'll see this add profile section. We're going to go ahead and click on that. And you're going to see these core sections. So that'll be education, has to be on there, different positions you've held, your skills. If you had a career break, like a lot of people did due to COVID, that can be explained by adding a little career break. Now, these are the recommended ones. You can add that featured section that I showed you earlier. If you have any license or certifications, like if you're CPR certified, that's a big one with a lot of students. You can add that on your LinkedIn if you've completed any of the certifications on any other sites. Like I know Coursera is a big one students use, and I'll show you LinkedIn's, LinkedIn Learning. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but you can actually get LinkedIn certifications that you can feature on your LinkedIn. If you want to add courses, if you feel like there's certain courses you've taken that you want to showcase on your LinkedIn, that's also an option. Then we have all these other additional sections that you can pick and choose. So it's really about what you want to add to your profile. I have volunteer experiences. I'll show you in a moment some people who have publications of different works that they've published. If you have projects you want to showcase, honors and awards, like if you've got scholarships, if you made Dean's List, that's something that you want to add right now. Any causes you support, again, very much making your LinkedIn what you want it to be. It's curating your online presence and your brand. Everyone's LinkedIn is going to look a little bit different. So let's actually look really quickly at someone else that I have here. So you'll see, her background is different. Her headline, she has many different titles that she likes to hold. It really showcases her skills in the different positions she's held. What I like about hers, you'll see she has this license and certification. So she has this right here, the certification that she got through LinkedIn, and I'll show you through LinkedIn Learning how you're able to do that. She also has a volunteering section. And then you'll see her publication section. So this is how publications will show up. Now, if you're a graduate student, you might have some of this. If you're working on some work with professors, you might have a publication section. So like I said, everyone's LinkedIn is going to look a little bit different based on what you want to showcase. All right, so now you say, you're like, Genesis, I've finished my LinkedIn completely. I'm ready to showcase it. How do I do that? We can add it to our resume, but you're like, where do I find my link? I will show you where. So your link is up here where it says edit public profile and URL. You're going to hit this, you're going to click that there. It's going to pop up this page and your link is going to be right in this right-hand corner. Now my link used to be like a string of numbers, and that's not very fun to put on your resume. What you'll do is you can hit this little edit button and you can actually edit what the ending of your link is, which I think is really cool. Just to make it nice and short, maybe it could just be like your first name. If you want to do your first and last name, it's up to you and what you want to do. So I think that's a cool feature, and you would put your LinkedIn URL and your contact information on your resume, but only do that when you're ready to showcase your resume and you're like, yeah, I'm proud of what I have on my LinkedIn and how it looks. So just keep that in mind as well. All right, so now that we kind of went through the basic profile, what you can do, what you can add, does anyone have any questions before I kind of move on to our next section?
Yes, Genesis, we have one question from Robert, and he is asking, so I should basically discuss my goals in my about question section?
Yeah, that would be definitely one aspect you would talk about in your about section. Like I said, it'd be like, what's next? What's the future? Yeah, what are your goals? Is your goal to, if you want to enter the music industry, like say, I want to enter the music industry and be a producer, right? You can say that. You can say that's what your goals are. So yeah, there's 3 parts to it. What motivates you, what you did in the past, why are you interested? What are you doing about it now? And what's next? What's the future? Yeah, great question. Any other questions? Awesome. All right, so now we're going to talk about the different features. Let me look at my notes here, my little cheat sheet, make sure I didn't miss anything. All right, let's go to the homepage of LinkedIn. So this is what the homepage of LinkedIn looks like. I access my profile through my little name here. And the homepage will have something we call the newsfeed, very similar to like Facebook or other social media sites where you can see what's going on in your industry. You can, based on what you're following, right? And based on your network. On my newsfeed, you'll see a lot of different things based on my past positions and who I follow. But your newsfeed can also be a way to showcase yourself. Let's say you just got an internship and you're like, you want to put that on LinkedIn? Go for it. That's an option. You can put that on LinkedIn. If you want to showcase, a project that you're working on, go ahead and put that on your LinkedIn as well. That's okay. Like those posts are you building your online presence and showing your network that you're actively working on building your LinkedIn. And you can follow people. It's great to follow people, and I'll show you how to do that as well to stay connected with different opportunities that are going on. The next thing I want to talk about is the jobs tab here. So once I hit this jobs tab, what LinkedIn does, it does recommended jobs for you. So you'll see these recommended jobs, and this is just based on your profile, based on what you've searched before, which I think is kind of nice. And you'll hit show all. When you do show all, you'll see a more comprehensive list. What I like about this though, is let's say I want to be an accountant. I'll hit accountant, you'll search for a certain title. I don't want to be an accountant, but it's just an example. And maybe what I like is their filters. You'll do experience level. Are you looking, let's say we're looking for an internship. You're going to show the results. Maybe you want to be hybrid. We're going to see that's very limited. You're going to show the results of what's hybrid. Or if you want a job type, part-time, full-time, these filters are really good and you can play with them to show you a lot of different results. What I will say though about applying through any website for any online jobs is making sure that you are vetting that resource or that job you are applying to. Let's say I want to work for this company here. Most of the time when you see this little icon here, it's going to take you to an outside website, which is okay. Make sure that the website looks legit and that the job is asking for just make sure you're vetting it and that you are not applying to what could be a scam. Unfortunately, that has happened on LinkedIn. So just make sure you're researching into the company that you're applying with. So that's the jobs tab. I think it's great because of the filters. Next thing I want to go into is actually, we're going to go into LinkedIn Learning, which is this little icon here. Now, LinkedIn Learning is different. It's actually a paid service, but you get it free as a CSUN student. So that's something important to take advantage of now that you are currently a student and you maybe you have some downtime, maybe during the breaks, you can actually complete a certification. So I'm going to press this here. It's going to open up to this site here. This is LinkedIn Learning, and you can access it as a student for free right now. So if we hit browse, we're going to see all the different certifications and topics you can learn about. Let's say you want to go into marketing, maybe you're a psychology major and you're thinking about what full-time jobs I want to have in the future, and you're thinking about going into some type of marketing, right? You want to boost your LinkedIn profile, not only your skills as well. Maybe you want to take a course on social media marketing, talk about personal branding, like we talked about a little bit about today, and really dive into that aspect of marketing. So there's a bunch of different ones that you can take advantage of. It's just about going in and exploring what you feel is going to be best to showcase on your LinkedIn, but also help you build your skills. So I do recommend this. Now that you're students and you have access to it, it's something you definitely should take advantage of. And it'll show up on your LinkedIn as we saw on someone else's profile earlier. So I'm going to go back to the home. And the next thing I want to talk about is connections. So there's 3 different types of connections. There's first degree connections, second degree, and third degree connections. Now those terms are often thrown around a lot, but first degree connections is someone you've directly connected with. So if I hit this little network button, we'll go there. It's someone you've directly connected with before. So maybe I saw them at a conference, or I saw them at a professional event. Maybe I worked with them. Maybe they were my classmate. I went to high school with them, or I did my undergraduate with them. I've met them before in some professional aspect or corresponded with them. That's a first degree connection. I feel comfortable like seeing their LinkedIn profile and saying, hey, I'm going to send you a connection. And then we're connected. Now, the important thing about those first degree connections is you cannot, if you're not connected with someone, you actually cannot message them. So when you hit that connection option, let me see if I could do it. When you hit connect, it actually gives you a little option to send a message. That is the only time you can send a message to that person. You cannot message in LinkedIn if you are not connected with them as a first degree connection. So that's something to keep in mind. Second degree connections are people who are connected to your first degree connections, and third degree connections are people who are connected to your second degree connections. So they're the furthest away from you. So let's say I want to take advantage of what I think are the most important ones are the second degree connections. So let's say I wanted to work for the Walt Disney Company. I searched, I type in the Walt Disney Company. I'm going to search them. I'm going to find their profile. And on their profile here, I'm going to hit their employees. So I'll hit this little employee section. It'll show me all the employees that are in their company, but they're going to filter them by these connections. So you see this little second sign here. This means that she's a second degree connection to me, and I can actually filter by first, second, and third. So I'm going to hit second because what is really valuable is those second degree connections. That is how you're going to access people that you might not have been able to access before. So let's say, I want to work for the Walt Disney Company, so I might want to be talking to a recruiter, right? I want to talk to this recruiter in talent acquisition that works for Walt Disney Company. So we're going to look at this. She's second degree. Awesome. She's a recruiter. Yes, I want to connect with her. And I see I have a mutual connection. This mutual connection is Stefan. So what I'll do actually is I'll reach out to Stefan and I say, hey, Stefan, I noticed you're connected to Holly. I can message Stefan because we're already connected. He's my first degree connection. I'll say, hey, I noticed you're connected to Holly. I was wondering if you can mention my name to her or put me in contact with her via email, and so that I can connect with her. Another option would be is I can connect with her by doing, hitting that connect button and sending that message and saying, hi, Holly, I noticed we have a mutual connection in common, Stefan Lozano. I was hoping you had a chance to talk about different opportunities at the Walt Disney Company. That is one example of being able to make that mutual connection or using the secondary connection to reach out to someone you might not have accessed before or known about before. So that's kind of important, is using that second degree connection. So what I'm going to do now is actually show you what those messages look like when we are trying to connect with a recruiter. So I'm going to switch sharing again. I'm going to share my PowerPoint again, hopefully. Can you see my PowerPoint again? Someone could put in the chat.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So now we're going to talk about what those messages look like when we're sending out those connections to the second degree connections or to a recruiter. So there's this method that LinkedIn comes up with. It's literally made by LinkedIn. It's this technique they call wink, smile, hug, or wink, smile, connect, hug. And it's a way they've really break it down in steps to make it easy to be able to connect with recruiters. So that first step is going to be the wink. Maybe you want to follow that person on Twitter or follow them on another social media app that they're, a professional site that they're using to advertise a different position they have available. That is very common with recruiters. They have many different social media sites nowadays to connect with job seekers and students to get out those opportunities. Once you follow them, you'll see that message. You'll see they'll have a new follower. They'll see your name. The next step is that smile. Now that they've seen your name on a different social media site, you're going to look at them at LinkedIn, on LinkedIn. You're going to view their profile. They're going to get that notification. And once they get that notification, they're going to see who you are and they're able to look back at your profile. Then that third step is the connect. That is what we're talking about. We're going to hit that connect button. You're going to click on their name and their profile, and you're going to be able to hit that connect button. It's going to give you the option to write that personal message. Always write a personal message. You are more likely to get a connection accepted if you write that personal message. Me, if I think about my LinkedIn, I typically only connect with people that I've met before or I've seen before. We have a mutual connection, or they've written a message to kind of explain why they're connecting with me. I'm always more likely to connect with them. So always write that personal message. Be very intentional when writing the message. And then this is an example of kind of a message you would put in that connection box. It's a very small box. You don't want to write like a whole essay. You want to be brief and you want to mention why you want to connect. So for this example, it says, I noticed you live in Atlanta. Boom, that's that mutual connection right there. Like you're bringing up something that's mutual between the both of you. Let's say you have a second degree connection. That's where you would say, hello, recruiter. I noticed we have this mutual connection in common. Stefan, I want to talk more about opportunities. This is one way to connect. Once you've sent that message and you've connected with the recruiter, they accept it. You're going to do the hug. They've seen you're connected now, so you're able to access their profile. You're able to copy their email from their contact area. And what you're going to do is send them an email and you're going to attach your resume. So your email can look something like this. Like, hi, my name is Genesis. I'm a senior at California State University, Northridge. I'm looking to explore opportunities in the education industry. If you have a minute, I'd like to discuss my skills and experiences. You put your phone number and a way for them to contact you and your resume. So that is that final step to kind of say like, all right, you're connected. Now let's boost our network. Let's maintain our network and build these relationships. Now, asking about different opportunities is one way to connect, but let's say you're a freshman or sophomore and you're not really looking for any like internships or part-time opportunities right now. That is totally okay as well. What you can also set up is an informational interview. So people are always more likely to set up and give advice. So if you want to just talk to them about their career path, how they ended up where they are, different opportunities in their industry that you are currently trying to pursue, people are always more likely to be able to, hop on a quick Zoom call or a phone call and give you some advice. And that is the way you're going to be able to, one, build a new relationship, maybe even a mentorship just by reaching out. So this would be another example to do if you want to reach out to a recruiter and build that connection. They will, if you're maintaining and building that connection using LinkedIn, they will more likely to be able to reach out to you and tell you, hey, this new internship opportunity just popped up in the company. I thought you'd be a good fit. So maybe not taking that direct approach of like, what opportunities are available now? Maybe just taking like, if you're a freshman, sophomore, and you're like, I want a mentor and I want to learn from someone and learn from you. You can always just ask for an informational interview or for advice. And especially recruiters are always, they're in the game of the people, right? They love working with people. So they're always really happy to, lend an ear or give advice to a student. So it never hurts to try that as well. Yeah, that's all I have for today. Do we have any questions? I know I said a lot.
Thank you, Genesis. We
Yeah.
have a question from Jocelyn, and they are asking, how long does it take to get a certification?
It depends. So each course is a little bit different. There's some courses that you can, if you dedicate like an hour or two and you can finish that course and they have these different videos, you can get that in an hour. And those might be more simple certification. There's other certifications, like if you're going to talk about using Excel and you want to get certified in that, you might even have to take a little test. So depending on how much time you take on each video, it does say once you click on the, and I think I can show you. So when you click on the certification, how much time it will take. So if we were going to go back to LinkedIn Learning here, let's say we're going to browse and we're going to maybe want to do social media marketing, like we said earlier. It shows you how long it's going to be. So you see 12 hours, 52 minutes, and some courses are like in a series. So you just have to pay attention. If you want to get that certification, you might have to take a whole series, but good question. Any other questions?
Yes, there is from Shaparak. Would you please explain the first and second degree connections again?
Yeah, of course. I kind of went through that a little fast, no worries. So let me see if I can go back to mine. First degree connections are going to be someone that you've met before. Like if I were to show you my network, my connections, they're going to be people that you have previously worked with. Like, for example, this is a first degree connection. She was my coworker at a past experience a past job I had to. That's a first degree connection. That'll be someone that I've met before and that I've accepted that connection, or someone that you've like have a mutual connection and they accepted your connection. So that is a first degree. A second degree connection is going to be someone, it's not necessarily someone you know, right? Like that recruiter that I showed you earlier. It's not necessarily someone you've met before, but they're connected to your first degree connection. So for an example here, Holly here is a second degree connection. Stefan is my first degree. We actually went to high school together. I now have connected with Holly because of Stefan. She is connected to Stefan, so she's my second degree connection. So first degree, someone I met before. Second degree connections are connected to my first degree connections. They know my first degree connection. And then third degree connections are someone that is connected to my second degree connection. Did that answer your question? I know it's still a little confusing.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions?
Yes, so Jocelyn has a follow-up questions regarding certificates. And the question is, do certificates ever need to be renewed once we get them?
That is a great question. I'm sure certain certificates do have to. I don't know the exact answer for certificates you'll earn on LinkedIn Learning. I'm sure as you complete it and earn the certificate, it will tell you if you have to, you need to renew it. Let's see if we look at Mila's profile here. She has some certificates. So you'll see here, actually, you see issued in September 2022, no expiration date. So I'm sure depending on what certification or course you finish, it'll tell you if there's an expiration date. Good question.
The next question is from Araik. Do you recommend upgrading to a premium LinkedIn account? If so, is there a specific benefit?
Good question. So everyone has a different answer to this, and this is definitely my professional opinion. I've always been a person that you should, as a student, definitely you should not have to pay for like career services. You have it available and ready to you. So as a student, you definitely shouldn't. I personally, even as a professional now, I actually tried LinkedIn Premium. They gave it to me free for like 3 months, and I thought, why not? Let me see what I can get out of it. To me, it wasn't worth it enough to pay for it, just because it's so expensive. And I didn't benefit in a way that I thought I would. Maybe if you're really actively going to be using LinkedIn, the biggest feature I think about the premium is that you can message recruiters without having to connect to them. So you can actually message them and use what they call LinkedIn Mail. But that would be the only thing. I personally did not see the 100% benefit of paying for it. I think if you build your profile right and you're actively using it and curating your profile, you will get recruiters that message you, especially based off that about section. If you're very intentional about putting language, that you're looking for work and that you're open to opportunities, you will get people kind of reach out to you, especially recruiters who are looking to fill positions. Because if you keep in mind, recruiters are great to connect with because they're getting paid for every position they fill. So it's a mutual, you both are benefiting. You get a job and they're doing their job and getting paid for that job that's getting filled. So something to also think about. But just my professional opinion, I think you can do a lot with on the free version.
Thank you, Genesis, for sharing.
Yeah.
The next question is, can you highlight newer or more important certificates at the top of the section?
Can you repeat that question one more time?
Yes, the question is, can you highlight newer or more important certificates at the top of the section?
Yeah, so if you add that certificate section to your profile, I don't know if you can certainly you can pick and choose which certifications you highlight. So let's say if I wanted to add a profile section and I wanted to do, let's see what happens. I don't think you can necessarily choose to put one above the other. I think it goes in by the year you got it. So the month and year you got it, LinkedIn will automatically organize it for you. Same thing as your experience. Like it's always going to be reverse chronological order. You don't really have a choice. It's really based off the dates that you enter, that LinkedIn will organize it for you. So I feel that's the same thing for your certifications. You can pick and choose what you want to, which certifications are on there, but I think it organizes by the date you received them. Good question.
Thank you. The next question is on certificates. So how does the certificate process work? Are there any built-in assignments within the course to finish as a final evaluation, or they're just like a seminar or workshop to finish the course and be certified?
Yeah, so I've actually started a couple like certificate courses in LinkedIn. Haven't had a chance to finish them yet, but from what I understand, many LinkedIn courses include assessments or chapter quizzes that allow you to check your own learning and see what you've retained. So it's different for every course, but many courses do have these quizzes and assessments that allow you to for yourself know what you've retained. But you do have to, I know you have to watch all the videos and certain certifications and spend a certain amount of time on it. Good question.
I'd like to add something about certifications.
Yeah, and Daniel as well, if you want to add anything as well, go for it.
Okay. I'd like to add with certifications, think of them like, let's say you're looking for a job in a certain industry and you see some job listings, postings, and you read through them and they're asking for a certain skill. And that's not necessarily a skill that you possess. One thing you can do is you can go onto LinkedIn Learning and take a course in that to build that skill. So that's one reason why you might want to do a course or do some type of get some type of certification. Also, depending on your industry, and I would say basically almost in every industry, the world changes really quickly. So it's one way to really update your skills. So let's say I'm a graphic designer and I've been doing graphic design for a long time. Well, I know that I'm going to need to improve my skills in Illustrator, let's say, over time. So I can take a course in Illustrator and show that I've updated my skills from, let's say, a long time ago. Let's say I learned Illustrator 10 years ago, and now I really need to be current, because if I'm not current, then I won't be able to find the jobs that I want to do, nor will I be able to use the software very well. So that's another reason why you might want to do a certification. So it just keeps you current, and it shows in LinkedIn that your skills are up to a current standard. So those are some of my thoughts about certifications.
Yeah, I completely agree. I actually have a direct message from someone really quickly. They asked if their profile can be public only to employers and private to everyone else. Actually, if you go to where we went to the edit public profile URL, you can play with your profile's public visibility, and you can go around and kind of decide what you want to show and what you don't want to show. It won't necessarily differentiate between like employers and public. But it helps you, if someone is, this is kind of when it breaks down. If someone's your first degree connection, you can decide that only they will see your profile photo. And it'll show you what it'll look like when your profile is on public. And you can kind of see what it looks like. So again, always keeping privacy in mind. I know that's super important. You can actually play with that here in your edit URL area.
But also I wanted to add to that. So only people that have the app LinkedIn would be able to access it, not anybody else, is more my specific question.
Gotcha. No, good question. No, so you can access it on a desktop, which is how I'm accessing right now via your laptop or a desktop computer. But the often way that I access it a lot is through the app. I almost treat it like another social media where I'm like, and it's easier for me to upload things. Let's say if I'm at a work event, I take a photo or a video, I can upload it from my phone to the app, right? I don't have to send it to my laptop and, go for my desktop. I find it sometimes easier to use the app and easier to stay connected. If I see these different connections, I can just go on the app and accept them. Good question.
Thank you.
We have another question, and is it helpful to add a resume to LinkedIn?
That is a very good question. I'm going to pass this over to my coworker, Daniel, and see what his thoughts are on this question. Daniel, I don't know if you're listening.
Hey, everyone. I am listening. And that's a great question. The way I think Genesis sort of touched upon this beautifully, the way to sort of think about the two is that with your resume, you're making claims, right? You're saying, I can do this, I'm skilled in this particular field, or whatever the case might be. And your LinkedIn breathes life into your resume. It's you proving what you can do on your resume. So while I think the two work in conjunction with one another, I wouldn't actually upload my resume as a document, because then it becomes redundant. You have your experience on there, you have your education on there. So I think it's sort of a different tool altogether.
Yeah, I completely agree. I would kind of echo that. Like I was saying earlier, it was just, this is kind of like a living, breathing resume. When you would take out your resume would be like saying a recruiter does reach out to you and they show you this position they want you to fill, then they're going to ask for your resume to be able to pass on to what's coming next, and going through the interview process, and having that resume is important, but it's not necessarily something you put on your LinkedIn. But thank you, Daniel. Any other questions?
Yes, and we have another one regarding resumes. And they say, I know some people have different resumes for different positions. Would you please explain how to do that? Thank you.
Yeah, so you mean like, depending on what different position. So it is true, your resume should be a little bit tailored to what position you are going to apply to. If you have different experience that is more relevant to the position you're going to apply to, it showcase that experience. But again, because your LinkedIn is like living, breathing of your resume, you might, depending if you're going to send, if you're interested in a certain industry, it has to be very like, you're going to enter a certain industry and your LinkedIn is going to reflect that. It's hard to tailor it for a certain position. So you can say in your LinkedIn that you are open to these two different positions in this industry. That is totally okay. You can be maybe a little more general and say you just want to go into this industry and maybe not be as specific. So that's kind of how I would go about it. And putting that into your LinkedIn, if there's certain experiences that you want to highlight and focus on more, maybe only listing that on your LinkedIn is also an option, but that's how I would do that. I hope that answered your question.
Okay, Genesis, I know that we had someone raise their hand, but the reason why we are asking you to put your questions in the chat is because we're recording today's event and we will be posting it on our YouTube channel. And so we won't allow anyone but the speakers to be on screen. So if the person who raised their hand, if you could put your question in the chat, we'll be happy to answer it.
Yeah, good comment. Any other questions?
The next question is, when you connect with recruiters as second degree connections, can you explain your relationship to your first degree connections and ask them for advice or job openings?
Yes, so you can do that. So once you've, done the wink, smile, connect, and hug technique, you can. That is fair game. Now that they've been willing to accept your connection, they've showed interest in helping you and talking them talking about the different opportunities their company holds, then yes, it's totally okay for you to ask for advice and talk about certain job openings. What they might do sometimes is redirect you to certain, website that they have that posts all their job openings. But asking them for advice is really going to help them understand what direction you're going. And then maybe they can even recommend certain positions based off of your conversations. Like if you said, I'm a music major and I really want to go into producing, I'm trying to look for different experiences into that. You sharing that information with them will maybe click something in their head to be like, oh, well, then this position that we're currently holding might be a great fit for you. So building the relationship is kind of key to then maybe securing a part-time job or an internship.
Thank you, Genesis. And the next question is, do we need to sign up using our CSUN email address to get the premium access?
Yeah, good question. So this is why I have this webpage pulled up because I saw that question earlier. So I just Googled, as you saw, CSUN LinkedIn Learning. It'll take you to this website that's a CSUN IT website. What you'll do is hit login to LinkedIn Learning. You're going to log in using your CSUN ID, and then that's going to also connect to your LinkedIn profile. So I forget the process, but once you're to this page, and I'll put this page in the chat, you're able to access LinkedIn Learning. But you do have to log in with your CSUN ID to add that feature onto your profile. Good question. Any other last minute questions?
Yeah, so the follow-up to the different resumes question was, their statement is, I meant by having different resumes upon applying to different positions. They choose from a list of resumes they have on their LinkedIn profile.
Gotcha. I'm gonna also refer this one to my coworker Daniel really quick, if you can hop in. I've seen about listing your resume. I don't know about a list of resumes. Have you heard of that, Daniel?
I just want to make sure I understand your question. Can you repeat it one more time?
So let me read the initial question. The initial question was, I know some people who have different resumes for different positions. Would you please explain how to do that? Then the follow-up was, I meant by having different resumes upon applying to different positions. They choose from a list of resumes they have on their LinkedIn profile.
I think I understand your first question. We can try to break it down together. So I think you're asking about different resumes for different positions. I'm going to keep this sort of tailored to LinkedIn here. And the best way to sort of approach LinkedIn is if you have multiple sort of job listings, or multiple, I think, avenues that you're pursuing. With LinkedIn, you're going to want to sort of think about tailoring it to a specific one. LinkedIn works really well by proving your expertise in a specific field. So my recommendation is to think about the different possibilities that you're interested in pursuing, and really kind of narrow your search and go for one with LinkedIn, because you want LinkedIn to be sort of that proof of expertise in that particular field. So I guess what I'm saying is, make sure LinkedIn reflects a specific occupation or a specific area you're pursuing. And then for the second question, one more time, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I understand it.
Yeah, they said, I meant by having different resumes upon applying to different positions. They choose from a list of resumes they have on their LinkedIn profile.
I'm not sure. Sorry,
Yeah.
even after hearing it for the third time, I don't know that I fully understand what's being asked
I
there. I'm
haven't
sorry.
heard of that feature of like listing multiple resumes. I thought maybe you've heard of that, but as far as I understand, I didn't know that was something that LinkedIn did.
And a question that just came up on resumes is, for LinkedIn, should we use bullet points in general for a resume?
You can use bullet points in your descriptions. Again, this is coming up to preference. I have short descriptions listing what I did and talking about the experiences that I gained from that job. Or you can list like 3 to 5 bullet points using maybe like more of a resume format and using those active verbs to start off those bullet points, less complete sentences. It comes up to preference. I've seen both. It's really what you want your profile to look like. What I also forgot to mention earlier is that LinkedIn, if you want to look at other people's profiles, as you're exploring your career and deciding what you want to do after graduation, I always like to look at other people's profiles and see, what did they get their education in? What did they get their education in? What positions they're holding now? Or if they hold a position I want to hold in the future, what did they do to get there? And you can see kind of like how they formatted their profile for the industry.
Agreed. It's such a great tool for research purposes.
Mhm.
I want to go back to the resume question. And I'm going to remove the question from the LinkedIn process. We do recommend that you have multiple resumes. So depending on what you apply for, you do want to tailor your resume for a certain type of position and certain positions. So we do recommend that from the Career Center. But as far as posting them all on LinkedIn, I'm not really aware of that opportunity to do that. But to actually create them and use them when you're doing a job search, we would recommend that. Okay, do we have any more questions? Because we really are out of time. We're sort of over time now. And if we don't have any more questions, I'd like to wrap it up.
No more questions.
No more questions. Okay, so what I would like to say is thank you. Really, thank you to Genesis for her presentation today. It was very informative. As you know, we were live streaming. We have posted this, or it will be posted on our Career Center YouTube channel in a couple of days. So for those of you that wanted to reflect back on this session, because there was a lot of information in there, you can do that on our YouTube channel. And I'd also just like to say thank you once again to Genesis. She is our newest member at the CSUN Career Center, and we're so thrilled to have her on board. I'd also like to say we have one more session for today, and it's about finding internships. So if you're interested in just the internship search process, that's what we're going to have from Enterprise Holdings at 4 p.m. And then we have 4 more sessions tomorrow. So keep that in mind. Oh, one last thing. I want to let you know that we do have a career fair next week. It's on Tuesday, October 25th. And it is in the Northridge Center. It's live. We have over 80 companies coming. Do your research before you go to the fair so you know who's coming. So again, thank you so much. And we're going to end the session.
Thank you.